And Sam, the chase for Essendon free agent Sam Draper has taken an unexpected twist.
This is quite an extraordinary set of circumstances, Damo, because Sam Draper was picking between Essendon and the Brisbane Lions, both of which had offered long-term deals. But a phone call from Adelaide coach Matthew Nicks on the weekend directly to Sam Draper may have just changed things for that player and now has him, as we go to air tonight, seriously reconsidering the Adelaide Crows as a suitor. Such was the vigour and excitement that Matthew Nicks had for Sam Draper on that phone call. Now, this is really interesting, Jimmy, given that the Adelaide Crows have just re-signed Riley O'Brien, we know that. But this is a club very much in Essendon, which has been on its knees, Lordo. Draper, yes, he doesn't play all the time, but he's a star at his best. He could turn around and say no to Brisbane, say no to Adelaide and stay with the Essendon Football Club. But this is just the newest chapter of a coach getting personally involved.
Well, yeah, well, he's in a good position, isn't he? Sam Draper, 3 clubs to choose from, all wanting his signature, Sam, based on your story there. So, and Essendon in trouble in terms of its position. So he might be thinking to himself, am I going to get success there? But the Adelaide Crows and the Brisbane Lions, it'll be about what lifestyle he wants, and because both are heading in a pretty good direction.
With where Essendon are at,
yes.
Would you take the compensation pick or would you keep him if you had the choice?
Well, money-wise, where do you think it would sit for him? A round 2 selection?
Yeah, I still don't think it's going to end up being that band 1, so it probably won't be a pick inside.
Yeah, so no, I'd be keeping Sam Draper.
Okay. Question for you though, Lloydie. If he was to pick the Crows, and we've seen this when 2 number 1 rucks come together, Draper wants to be a number 1 ruck. You have a look at how tall the Crows already are in the forward line. Would that be actually the best place for his football?
That's a good point, because he'd be number 1 ruckman at Brisbane. So, yeah, because they are desperately needing a ruckman. But
here is that man. They just re-signed for 3 years.
But I can understand what Nicks is doing, because you can see what happens with injuries, and if you lose one, you need 2. Some will say, do you need 2 that good in O'Brien and also Draper? But they're so different, Damo. Can understand it, and Draper can play forward. I don't think he's a great forward, but can do that to play them both in the same team.
And the fact that Draper is one of many players at Essendon out for the season with a serious injury, it has caused Essendon to rethink its own policies in the high-performance space. And we've known for some time that Sean Murphy will not have his contract renewed, and they are in the market for a new high-performance boss. And they have targeted high-performance bosses at 2 other footy clubs at the moment. Stuart Graham from Port Adelaide is a person of interest for the Bombers in that space, and also Matt Innes, who was formerly of the Western Bulldogs and currently at West Coast. I know that those 2 men are focused, or in the focus of Essendon to be a potential replacement for Sean Murphy.
It's an amazing move from Matthew Nicks. He's essentially, coached himself to be coach of the year, taking the Crows from outside of the 8 to now sitting top of the ladder. And I know that senior coaches, they love pulling the wool over our eyes and saying, oh, we don't get involved in recruiting, or we leave that to this department and that department. But just another iteration, if you like, of a coach saying, no, I'm getting personally involved here. Give me his number, I'll call him.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important, because if you're a player and you're thinking of leaving and going to another club, you actually need to hear it from the coach. How do you fit?
Yep.
Because I know the list management team and everyone in those departments can sell you the dream, but you really want to hear it from out of the coach's mouth. Like, don't just fill me full of hot air. Tell me actually how you're going to play me. And just using the Adelaide example, if I'm Draper going, well, what happens if Riley's number 1 ruck for 90% of the time? Yep. What am I doing? So you need a clear outline, and the best person to ask is the coach.
And we should say we did here at Footy Classified contact Matthew Nicks directly about asking about the conversation, and he politely declined to comment. Let's move on to the Hawks, who were essentially at the other end of a loss from the Adelaide Crows. They were gallant in that defeat, Damo, but it has now left this footy club precariously dangling right on the edge of the 8 and could miss.
Yeah, it is, Sam, and it comes in a season in which they were coming off a performance where they just missed a prelim final appearance last year. They recruited Tom Barras and Josh Battle, and they felt they were going to be getting a full year out of Will Day. Now, that hasn't happened. He's missed a chunk of footy and is now out again for the season, suffering a 3rd serious instalment of a foot problem, a navicular on his right foot. So it hasn't worked out. They are vulnerably placed. Game against Collingwood this coming Thursday night. It is going to leave them, the event of a loss, on the borderline of actually even making the 8. And it's not how they expected it to make, given that they haven't played one person in a debut situation this year, Lordo. They are in the hitting zone for it, and it's a performance that they will not be satisfied with.
Jimmy, we watched them together on Friday. They were pretty good, weren't they, Hawthorn? So they didn't do a lot wrong. But it is a big game for them on Thursday night. So I don't think they're that far off, but they haven't quite got it going this year. It's just the tools. Sam Mitchell, I admired his bold decision to go all four, but I don't think it works because Kalshadir was subbed out in the game. Mitch Lewis didn't do too much either. So what I would do is Mitch Lewis would make way.
You drop Lewis?
Yeah, I think Kalshadir has the versatility, agility, good at ground level, good in the air.
Lewis doesn't have that?
I think he's very limiting. Unless he's taking strong marks, I'm not sure what else he offers. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, well, Chol plays because he can play the second ruck and his form warrants it. We know Gunston picks himself, but I'm a bit with you. I think I have greater confidence at this stage in Kalshadir being able to play a bit higher up the ground than Mitch Lewis, because obviously if you're going to give the square to Gunston or Chol, who's resting from the ruck, I just think you can manage it a bit easier with those three. How
do they cover the loss of Day? It's obviously just come back.
You don't cover the loss of Day, but you find different ways to win. And not dancing around your question there, but because he's such a unique player for Hawthorn, it's his ability to go from inside to out, and that's why they miss him so much. I think Warple is the one who he can't start as a sub. He looked, tough to actually pick up the pace of the game the other night, which was finals-like atmosphere. So Warple probably comes into that. You probably ask where McKenzie is, who's been sitting on the outside in. You need to get Newcombe back into some red-hot form, because that combination with Meek, they need to win the ball from out of the contest and win some territory.
In the bigger picture, it's a serious concern now, though, that this is the third time since the start of 2024 that this foot has flared up on Will Day. And I know the club will be very sensitive and defend itself for actually allowing him to play in this season, having had the same problem at the start of the year. But there is a fresh knock component to this latest damage, but it ultimately is the same foot. And I would imagine a good professional football club, as it clearly is, almost leading the competition in many ways with how they set themselves up. They will be reviewing, I would imagine, this whole scenario that had him playing 18 weeks after doing it for a second time, and he's now doing it a third time.
Questioning whether they were at fault.
They have to question it, Sam. I mean, and good clubs will, and they do. And they will tell us that it's a fresh knock, that it was actually a stomping situation out of the weekend, but it is the same foot that had the problem in the early 2024 and again in early 2025. It was the finals he missed last year with a shoulder injury.
And I think it's their biggest weakness. So Will Day, obviously question marks around him, but he's their star. After him, I think there's a big void. So Sam Mitchell's one of the more aggressive coaches in terms of going after players.
Yep.
So I'll be shocked if they don't bring in an A-grade midfielder over this off-season.
Who are you thinking?
Well, you start with Zach Butters, and if you can't get Zach Butters, you see who else. But
Ali Reid?
Those sort of players are what they need.
Christian Petrarca?
Yeah. So that sort of quality, yeah.
It's interesting that, Sam Mitchell has been very much on the front foot about embracing the personality of his players. Jack Ginnivan, we know, has been a distraction every now and then, and he found himself embroiled in another controversy on the weekend.
Jack, what was with the middle finger at Crows fans last night? Are you a sore loser?
Do you think I'm going to speak to you?
Haven't you just? Why are you laughing?
Because you're embarrassing. Imagine trying to stop me at the airport. How weird.
Are you embarrassing, giving the Crows fans the middle finger because they've won and you've lost?
Whole exchange felt pretty embarrassing, to be honest. That's the incident we're talking about. And clearly his bank balance was a little lighter after which, because he was fined, and Jack Ginnivan commented on the Instagram post, best coin spent. So it's tongue-in-cheek, we know that. Live by the sword, die by the sword. But is it, when they're not winning and when they're not near the top of the ladder, does it become a distraction, do you think, for the wrong reasons?
Yes, and be smarter. So if you want to be smart walking off the ground and then tweet it, be smart enough when you're approached to handle yourself better. Because as I said, she didn't handle herself in glory, but I don't think he did either.
It was a bizarre approach.
Yeah, but
in
also
fairness.
he didn't handle himself the best either with the way he... What do you think, Damo? Like, has he got to... If you're willing to dish it out, at least he didn't come off great by the end.
Yeah, I agree with your summation of it, Lordo, and there is an easy way for that not even to be aired, is to just say, look, I'm not commenting on this today, or I shouldn't have done it. Either way, it does take the air out of it, and we're not talking about it for the other reasons today.